Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. From websites and online stores, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence. Hello, friends. I hope that you've been well. We, of course, are continuing the Zodiac illustration series. This month, we are working on Libra. Fun fact, I myself am a Libra, so this illustration actually came together really easily for me, which was such a nice change of pace because I feel like I have been fighting for my life with a lot of the previous illustrations with just various challenges that have come up with the medium or thinking of the concept, etc. So it felt really fitting that my zodiac sign was very peaceful and seamless for me to put together. If all goes well, this will hopefully be posted on my actual birthday, which is October 3rd. And I will say I love being a October 3rd baby because not only is it Mean Girls Day, it's a significant date in the anime Full Metal Alchemist. It's also Stray Kids Bangchan's birthday as well. He and I are birthday twins, and I truly love that for us. And by the time that you're watching this video, I am likely in Korea. I am going to be in Korea for the first 2 weeks of October, and I definitely will be vlogging everything. So stay tuned for some of that kind of content later on. But because I'm in Korea for the first 2 weeks of October, I'm actually making this video literally the day before I fly out. And so I'm going to be so real with you guys. This voiceover is mostly just going to be a very casual, chatty video where I talk about the inspo of the Libra illustration, of course, and the process. But I'm also just going to catch you up on what I've been up to and what I have planned upcoming, because unfortunately the past couple of months have been really hectic for me, so I haven't gotten the chance to do any live streams, and I feel like, I miss being able to catch up with you guys on just various things that have happened. So yeah, strap in for a very chatty, podcasty-esque type video. But before we dive into the rest of the video, I just want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. As you probably know by now, Squarespace is a great website building platform that is perfect for a variety of creatives. Personally, as someone who creates illustrations as well as YouTube videos, a very useful feature that I have come across is that I can attach a link to the corresponding illustration on my gallery, which allows me to feature 2 pieces of content at once. This is especially helpful if anyone is curious about the materials or the process of a particular illustration. It can take them directly to the video, which is so quick and efficient. So if you're interested in launching your own website, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/I'mAWonder for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So let's start off with the inspiration behind the design choices that I did for Libra. So with Libra, the color palette is blue, pink, and I do believe light green is also a factor into the color palette. By the way, the resources and information that I had written them down in this notebook for a Zodiac Warriors illustration series that I did a couple of years ago. And I unfortunately do not remember where I gathered all of this information from. So apologies if, my information is quote unquote incorrect or different from your interpretation of the Zodiac series. This is just things I had written down. But anyway, I ended up not including green in this color palette because I just felt like I really wanted it to be a much more limited color palette. And I felt like green was just going to be a little bit too much with the kind of vibes that I was going for. And me being a Libra myself, I really wanted to just channel all of my kind of go-tos and comfort things because, maybe I am doing a little bit of favoritism here. But if you are familiar with my work, you'll probably know that this is a color palette that I use very, very often. The light pinks with the kind of varying shades of blue. It's just very calming and really my go-to color palette. And for her hair, I knew that I wanted it to be long and kind of windswept because Libra is an air sign. And for the pose, I knew I also wanted to have a nod to the fact that the symbol for Libra is the scale, but I didn't want it to be very on the nose and I didn't want to include an actual scale. So that's why I have the pose of the hands sort of kind of framing the face, and it's sort of a nod to the scales but not super obvious. And for the reason why I decided to have her eyes closed is because the scales and Libra, it's kind of a trait that we really believe in justice and equality and balance. And so when I think of those things, it makes me think of Lady Justice. And she is often depicted with a blindfold on. And I didn't want to include a blindfold, so I decided to have the character's eyes closed to sort of make a nod to that motif. And with the clothing, with Libras, we are kind of stereotyped into being really into aesthetics, which I do attest to. In my opinion, I'm very much about aesthetics. So I really wanted her clothing to feel a little bit extra to a degree. So, of course, had to have the sheer long opera gloves, a little bit of accessories, and then the kind of top here is a motif that I felt really gave a sense of flexibility and also mimicked, again, like wind or something windswept, because Libra is an air sign, and air signs, as including water signs, are known to be fairly flexible people or like go with the flow. And as for the actual process, it's interesting how some of my zodiac illustrations are more acrylic wash heavy and then some are more watercolor heavy. Most of them I feel like have been more acrylic wash heavy because I've just been at war with watercolors. But surprisingly, this illustration ended up being much more watercolor heavy, which I thought was really fascinating. And for whatever reason, the watercolors were really working with me and felt just, yeah, like very peaceful and straightforward to use this time around. And a part of me wonders is if it's because this is a very light color palette. And so I'm like able to build the shading really subtly and slowly. And so maybe I'm not using as many layers as I normally would if I'm going for something a little bit more saturated or darker. I'm not really sure what the forces were here, but I'm very thankful because I was working on a pretty tight deadline to get this done in time. But yeah, the benefit of this illustration being more watercolor forward is that, again, it kind of feeds into that more airy, light atmosphere that I think is suitable for an air sign, and just the overall vibe of this illustration. It feels kind of very peaceful and, yeah, just like a sense of harmony with the colors and kind of the windswept hair. And of course, anything that I say about any zodiac is totally generalized and not to be taken super seriously. I embarked on this illustration series for fun, and I myself don't take astrology super seriously or, set in stone in any way. It's just fun to interpret these kinds of things and gives me a theme to work with. I've had a couple of comments here and there of people not agreeing with the choices that I made for certain zodiac signs. And I remembered noting that in the previous zodiac illustration series that I did, there was a couple of people who felt very strongly about certain interpretations that I did. And I remembered at the time being like, oh my gosh, like I'm super sensitive. So I was like, I don't think I can do a zodiac series ever again. Like other people are just like being a little bit too invested in the interpretation of certain zodiac signs. But then, as time goes on, you kind of forget about certain things or how strongly you felt about people's comments. And so I decided to do the zodiac thing again. But overall, I will say most people have been really kind and a lot of people have been really enjoying the zodiac series. So thank you for enjoying the series thus far. And in that kind of conversation, I have mentioned this in my Patreon podcast, which, by the way, if you are interested in consuming more content from me, over on my Patreon for the $3 tier, you can have access to dozens of podcasts where basically it's a lot like this, where I'm just casually chatting about various topics and what I'm getting up to, but just in a podcast format. In any case, in the recent podcast, I have been talking about what I want to do for the Patreon artwork next year. And I really do like having an overarching theme. It's just a nice way for me to be able to have a series, but in a much more timely, or what's the word? Like a much more sustainable time frame, as opposed to the October only challenges or a monthly challenge. I just don't have the time to be able to do a full series like that within 1 month. And so for next year, I decided I'm going to be returning to the theme of witches. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that a while back, I think 2017 it was, I did a alphabetic witches series during October. And that was actually kind of the series that I think really gave me a boost in my social media following. I feel like that's when the ball really started to roll. And I've always loved drawing witches and magical girls. So I have since retired that series. Like, I don't sell the zine or prints anymore, but I would really love to have more witchy stuff again in my kind of rotation. So I would much rather do a new kind of set of illustrations as opposed to just like recreating those exact illustrations. So this time around, I'm keeping it broad of just witches. There's nothing specific otherwise. And for me, that will also allow me to explore like a wide variety of themes within that, and also a lot of different interpretations with different mediums, compositions, styles, etc. Because as much as I love the consistency of the Zodiac series, I think it'll be really satisfying to see them all lined up in the end. It is very limiting in terms of like my creativity to a degree, and also for YouTube as well, like just for you to watch, because the process of them is like very, very similar. And I would love to go back to exploring more illustrations where I have the character in an environment or like a background that is more detailed or more conceptual, and have the characters like, full figure, so I can draw like the full outfit. And yeah, just like kind of return to a lot of these illustrations that I did back in 2017, 18, 19, because yeah, as much as I love portraits, I do think that there is something that is more engaging sometimes when I'm able to explore the characters in more interactive settings. And over on Patreon, I actually have asked my patrons to give me some ideas and suggestions on what themes that they would like to see within the witch umbrella. And I have been getting a lot of really cool suggestions, and I'm really excited to narrow it down to some of my favorites. And again, just to give myself more creative flexibility, I'm just going to pick the one that really resonates with me at the beginning of every month and kind of go along with that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to use different mediums as well. I think that even though I feel like my artwork does read a little bit different depending on the medium, I do think that it'll be still cohesive because it's under the entire theme of witches. And I do think that it could be fun to have something that has a more varied kind of look throughout the series. And another little kind of update from me for those of you who are not patrons or don't follow me super closely on Instagram, I've had a very fulfilling and fun summer. That's why I haven't been able to do as many live streams the past couple of months, because I've been out and about just enjoying summertime before the weather gets cold here in Toronto. And yeah, I went to an ATEEZ concert. I went to see Charlie XCX and Troye Sivan. I went to a K-pop summer camp, which was super cute. I had a Sanrio themed birthday party for myself yesterday in advance before I go to Korea. I will be in Korea for my actual birthday, so I thought might as well do a little party before I go. And of course, yeah, I'm going to be going to Korea. I unfortunately did not get the chance to do it with Trova Trip as I had initially planned, but I'm really looking forward to just having the flexibility of having my own itinerary, and we will be doing lots of shopping, doing lots of cafe hopping, and doing some sightseeing. And I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be my first time going to Korea, and I think the first time I'm leaving North America this year. I feel like I've done a lot of traveling this year, but only within North America. I think the last time I went overseas was last year for Japan. So it's going to be really cool to be able to experience another culture and eat lots of amazing food. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully doing a little bit more with my vlogging this time around. When I did Japan, I mostly just kind of did a lot of panning of what I was up to, and then did a voiceover for basically the entire thing. But I have noticed that when I'm watching other people's vlogs, I do enjoy when they're talking in the moment during the actual vlog. I find there's something, engaging about it. And while I typically don't do that because I get really shy and awkward about, just like talking to a camera or out loud in public, I do think that being in a different country and, speaking a language that's not dominant there could potentially make it feel less awkward, because everyone around you might not necessarily know what you're saying. So I'm going to try my best to actually talk in the moment during the trip, but I make no guaranteed promises. Just know that I'm going to attempt it. And yeah, I have no idea how I'm going to break up the vlogs necessarily, but I definitely will be wanting to share all of that with you. Oh, another thing that I wanted to mention about the process of this particular illustration is that I did a lot of the line art with colored pencils this time. And that was something that I originally wanted to do more of when I had initially embarked on this Zodiac illustration series. But, old habits die hard, and I ended up doing a lot of the line art for a lot of them with acrylic gouache. But I realized that with colored pencils, I feel like I have way more control over the quality of my lines, and it's also so much faster. It's so refreshing and felt just so efficient. Obviously, there is a very different, not very, but there is a different look to the line art being color pencil versus acrylic gouache. But I do think that this is something I'm going to take note of again in the future. And I guess now I'm just speaking out loud. I'm so sorry if this voiceover is very all over the place. I'm just really going off the cuff here because, again, time constraints. It's like 7:15 p.m. and I haven't packed yet, and I fly out tomorrow. But anyway, I'm just realizing now the reason why so many of my Zodiac illustrations have been using acrylic gouache dominantly for the line art is because a lot of them ended up being acrylic gouache dominant overall, and color pencils don't have the same kind of effect, or they don't look nearly as crisp and dark on acrylic gouache layers. So the color pencil looks better when it's a very thin kind of wash of watercolors, because it's actually able to like grip onto the fibers of the paper, whereas any area that is more acrylic wash heavy, it's too slick and smooth for the color pencils to really grip onto, and ends up being like transparent almost, or like shiny looking. So yeah, I'm just kind of realizing these things out loud. So now I remember why I was using acrylic wash for a lot of the line art. But I did use acrylic wash here, predominantly on the face, just to kind of smooth things out and really make the focal point there, especially that pink kind of blush. I find with acrylic wash, it can be so much more vibrant, especially with pinks versus watercolors. But yeah, I'm really happy with how she turned out. And as always, if you are interested in receiving the print and or sticker in the mail, you can join my Patreon, which I'll have linked in the description. You'll also gain access to a secret shop where you can shop the previous Zodiac illustrations, and you get discount code to my regular shop and exclusive videos. So many goodies over there. But anyways, thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope I was good company. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.